It's time to talk deeply about the Europe sport policies. We are here with our institutional director, Alberto Bichi. Alberto, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, Hugo. Thank you.
And the head of the sport unit, Yves Lostecque. Good morning, Yves.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, very fine. Thank you.
Well, we start with Mr. Lostecque in order to know exactly what is happening in terms of sport, and then you come back after his replies. Okay, Alberto?
Perfect, Hugo. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Lostecque, could you make a balance of the year in terms of sport with the Erasmus Plus sport, with the European Week of Sport, with all it's happening in sport in Europe?
Yes, I think a lot is happening, and if you want a first evaluation of this year, I could say that it has been very active, very productive. We had worked a lot on of issues which are of interest for archers and for all sport organizations in general. If you want, just to say one sentence of each of the main subjects, I think we have succeeded to have a second edition of the European Week of Sport, which was extremely successful. We have succeeded also to make Erasmus Plus program evolve towards more efforts to grassroots sports, and we have launched also some very important works, in particular in the field of good governance in sport, all of this in partnership with sport organizations and member states. So I can say that we are proud in a way of what we have done this year.
What do you think, Alberto Bichi?
Well, I cannot but I would say agree with everything that Yves has just mentioned. I think that Yves, if you allow me to comment, I think that it is important definitely now that we take into consideration sports in a more holistic way. So I think that what I would like to get at is it is important to understand that sports is relevant for many other policy areas. Name it health, name it transport, name it environment, name it enterprise, and so on and so forth. I guess that it is important to uplift even further sports, and Arches is here to support. Arches is definitely here to support as broadly as we can, because ultimately policymakers have to understand and realize that sports is of essence. Sports is of essence for many policy areas. So I think that this is the key message that I wanted to convey here. Excellent work has been done by DG EAC, excellent work in terms of also the European Week of Sports, as Yves was mentioning. Much more financial means available also for sports in general, but we have to look bigger and stronger.
Following the words of Alberto Bichi, what are the new challenges for the future?
The new challenges are first to continue our work on Erasmus Plus. We have more and more money every year, and we try to adapt, after consultation, we try to adapt the priorities, and more and more we will put accent emphasis on grassroots sports. And for instance, we have created this category of projects of small collaborative partnerships. It was a test in a way, a challenge for us, and it was successful. And so we are going to develop this tool, and this was a personal commitment of Commissioner Navracic. And next year, the challenge will be also first to succeed in organizing a third European Week of Sport as successful and maybe more successful as this one, to continue our work on good governance, because we have entered in a phase of cooperation with major sport organizations in order for them to make precise commitments in terms of good governance. And I would add that I would expect some progress in the field of match fixing, where we are, negotiating an international convention under the auspices of the Council of Europe. Plus, also we will continue to pay particular attention to the field of inclusion through sport, in particular for migrants and refugees, and on this also we have ideas that we will develop in partnership with the European Parliament next year. So.
Talking about the numbers, or talking about the figures from the Eurobarometer, Europe needs to be more active in terms of sport?
Yes, sure, that's absolutely clear for everybody. We are trying to contribute. We know we are just an actor in this field, and probably member states and sport organizations must make their own efforts, but we can contribute through policy cooperation, through helping member states to conceive some sort of national plans of development of sport and physical activity, through support for projects we are already doing, and also through the European Week of Sport. And once more, I must underline that this is not a one-week event. The mayor of Košice, you know very well, was saying that in Košice, the European Week of Sport, it's 52 weeks. This is ideally what we want to achieve. The European Week of Sport is just a tool in order to make people practice the whole year. So we try to contribute, and I think with some success, even if the figures are not for the moment so positive.
Could we title this mandate as the mandate of the citizens? I mean, with the former commissioner was more focused on doping, on betting, and this is more focused with Mr. Navrasic in more active population, in improve the sport as integration of communities. Am I right?
I think you are partially right, but I see things a little bit differently, because the former commissioner, Madame Vassiliou, was also very dedicated to promoting, for instance, gender equality in sports subjects, which are also about promoting positive values of sport. And Commissioner Navracsics clearly is dedicated to the promotion of grassroots sport, of small sport organizations, of sport for citizens, but we must be aware also that one of his first initiatives when entering this new commission was to put on the table of the council proposal for the EU to sign the convention on match fixing. So I think he's working in both directions, professional sport and grassroots sport, in a very balanced way, I must say.
Alberto?
Well, Yves, I'm very happy to hear that actually one of the top priorities of the European Commission is grassroots sports, because actually this is what ACES Europe does. ACES Europe brings sports really to the very, very lower level of people. And so I guess that this is definitely going in the same sense as ACES Europe. Maybe to challenge a little bit the process, and I'm sure that we will have plenty of time to further expand on this, but to challenge a little bit the process, I would like to understand, because this small-scale collaborative partnership in this new baby of the Erasmus Plus, you know, I wonder, and of course, it's always easy to sort of find critical elements, but I wonder if we're not fragmentating too much the essence of sports. And so my first question to you is, how could we make sure that there is a unity, there is a combination, and there is not a too broad fragmentation of money that ultimately will be dedicated to many initiatives? So this is one question. And the second question is, you know, the results of all these projects, I think that they are extremely relevant, all these projects, but I think that I would like to understand also what are the next steps. When the different projects come to an end, I'm trying to understand exactly how can we make sure to capitalize from the results of this project, in order to make sure that there is a greater development of sports in general.
I think it's a very valid point, and everything is a question of balance. Because we are discussing about European funds, European support, and we are aware that we will never be able to reach all sport organizations in Europe, and this is not our wish, and this is not our possibility. It's not either our competence. But I think this balance is very important. On one side, we must finance, support projects which have an impact, real impact, on European sport, of its governance, on the fight against doping or match fixing. So we will keep and we will continue to have high, I would say, ambitious projects in terms of size. But also, I think and we think, it's not only my thinking, that it's very important in terms of signal that the Commission doesn't only cooperate with big European organizations, but is able to give an added value to some sport organizations. This is a challenge to keep this balance. We are aware that it would make no sense to finance sport projects in certain issues or certain topics, but we believe that, for instance, in social inclusion, they can bring a lot. And we learn from some innovative projects that we have supported small collaborative partnerships in terms of mobility, in a way, in terms of traditional sport and games, which was one of the other priorities of these small collaborative partnerships. I think small organizations can really also contribute to the impact. So it's all about a question of balance. I think never all of the budget of Erasmus Plus Sport will go to small projects, but it is very important in terms of message politically to show that we are also able to finance and to help a very good project taking place in small organizations in Lombardia, Sicilia, Bretagne, or Kent, or I don't know. So.
I want to finish on the final question. What's your balance also about ACES Europe as head of the sport unit?
I think my balance is not a secret. ACES Europe is a partner, is an important partner, a traditional partner, I would say, in terms, in the framework of the European Capital of Sport, but also in other fields, European Week of Sport, and in general in promoting sport and physical activity. We appreciate the cooperation with ACES Europe. We were very happy to see that in many of our initiatives, ACES Europe was supporting, was close to us. We appreciate this, and I would just conclude this, answer your question, saying that ACES Europe pursues exactly the sort of aim we want to promote through a certain number of successful events. So in this case, the European Capital of Cities of Sport, you promote in the long term physical sport and physical activity. You help the development of facilities. You encourage people to practice sport. So this is absolutely what we want to do. So that's why we consider you as a very valuable and important partner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yves Lostecque. We appreciate your works, and we appreciate, of course, your experience talking about Europe and talking about the sport.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yves Lostecque. Alberto, Bichi, as always, it's a real pleasure. You want to finish with any sentence?
No, Hugo, I think that everything has been said. Thank you very much to have given me the opportunity to be here, and we'll be in any case in contact, and we'll follow up the work and keep up the work for the promotion of physical activity in Europe.
Thank you very much, Alberto. We continue with this special program of ACES Europe and the award ceremony.